Rightio, welcome on in. It is episode number 86 of Geographically Challenged. We are right on in after stage 2 of the major. And of course, we had to get our Chinese correspondent in. We've got Surf in after the big win of Lynn. We're here to talk all about stage 2, maybe give you a bit of a prediction in for stage 3, and maybe tie up a couple of other matters that have been happening in Asian Counter-Strike over the past week or so, if we've got time. Bleh is back after his hiatus. What happened last episode, Bleh? Where were you?
I don't remember, man. My mind's all over the place.
That believe it or not, that's actually the right answer, because you didn't remember that we were doing a show last time, but luckily you remembered this time, so that's a good win. Yeah. Surf, how are you doing? Congratulations, obviously, to China for getting themselves an extra slot potentially at the next major. We'll see how that goes. But obviously, first time on Geographically Challenged for you. It's nice to have you here. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, and I'm really glad you invite me to be here. And I have to say, it's only a slot for Asia. So if like FlyQuest get to the number 2 of the Asia next time, they can be invited directly to stage 2,
but we'll see whether or not that's going to be the case. The way things are looking.
Fucking Aussies, right?
Those fucking Aussies
spots,
mate. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to. Tyloo and Lynn Vision are looking pretty good at the moment. But look, like we said, we're here to talk about stage 2 of the major. So let's get into that discussion now. Before we jump too far into things, I just want to give a quick shout out to SkinClub, who are sponsoring this video, which is good for me, of course, but it's also good for you, because in addition to the in-game pick'ems, you can also do your pick'ems over on SkinClub, which will give you the chance to win some pretty cool stuff. As you can see, there's some knives and other skins to give away, and if you're the Pick'em GOAT, you can even win yourself an AWP Dragonlaw. It's free to participate, and you can even compete against me and some of the other content creators over on SkinClub. So if you're keen, check out the link in the description. Look, I guess it's prudent that we should probably start with Tyloo and Lynn Vision as a conversation point, just because we've got Surf here and we can get his thoughts, and we can maybe even check in, I guess, with the Chinese community, because I know a lot of our viewers, Surf, are obviously Western, they're English speakers, They don't really get to hear from China all that much. So I kind of just want to get a vibe check on what the Chinese audience has thought about the results from stage 2. If you can give us a bit of an insight into what they thought about what Tyloo were up to, and how Lynn Vision did, obviously being able to get that extra slot.
Actually, it's way beyond our expectation. We didn't think we can make both teams to stage 2, and not imagine Lynn Vision made to stage 3. Actually, a lot of them put Lynn Vision or Tyloo on 0-3, and most of them maybe Lynn Vision, but fuck your pick'ems. Lynn Vision made to stage 3. And I have to say, actually, I think Tyloo had the chance to beat Heroic last time. So before we saw they cannot make the stage 3, but after we watching the game, I actually think they are capable of making to the top 16
100%. I mean, I got to say, I think this is probably the best I've actually seen Lynn Vision look, for sure. And then even for Tyloo, at times I thought, again, it's sort of similar to stage 1. They had some really, really good games. They had some kind of average games, but again, like that peak level that you got from Tyloo was kind of like in line with my expectations. And Bleh, obviously we had our expectations a little bit higher, I think, for Tyloo than for Lynn Vision, generally speaking. But I'm really, really happy with what we got from Lynn Vision, no doubt. I would say maybe even slightly disappointed with what Tyloo brought at the end of the day, because like Surf said, I do feel like that Heroic game was super winnable. So I don't know if you kind of got the same vibe as me when I was watching this Lynn Vision game against Bait. And it was one particular round on Anubis where I think it was the A site that they were like post-plant on the A bomb site. It was a 2v4. I can't remember who was in the 2v4. And Lynn Vision had the bomb plant. They were holding off 2v4 against like a pistol retake or something on the A bomb site. And the way that those two players actually played that 2v4, I was like, holy shit, they're actually so locked in right now. Because there was a guy that was like on the flank coming from A main, and they both swung him together. Like they recognized that he was there. They hid for a second, swung together, and I was like, holy shit, like there's so many layers going on in this round, because you've got 3 other guys coming in through from cams and from heaven and whatever. And for these guys to swing main together in that circumstance, and it was like a super high critical round, you know what I mean? And I was like, fucking hell, these guys are like actually on, you know what I mean? Like I've not seen a Chinese team play like that, team play wise, probably ever since we've been doing this podcast. And even prior to that, these guys used to be like the whole run and gun kind of meme, but like they actually played as a fucking team, and they were sharp as fuck, which was amazing.
I think they peaked at the perfect time, right? Like coming into the major as well. Like I think everyone could be forgiven for putting them. I mean, I didn't. I kind of had them making it a stage 2, but I still really didn't believe in it. Like stage 3 is absolutely insane. And I think for me, a couple of players you need to point out. I think call me sus, like call me Sue.
Yep.
Yeah. Is not so. I watch him play a little bit. I'm like, I don't know about this guy, right? We saw in interviews where they're like, he's really helping us with our mentality and what he brings from, having played in NA and everything. And I feel like it took a bit of a while. But for me, the crazy thing is how the peak they're hitting while playing in the freaking major, because it's a major, right? The pressure's on. Like, look at how some certain names we'll touch upon as well, like, Falcons, for example, have like completely crumbled, right? And you can talk about expectations, and sure, there might be lower expectations from everyone else, etc., etc. But still, at the end of the day, you're coming in to win. You're coming in to make it to the next stage. So yeah, I'm super very just impressed with how, like like you pointed out, they played some really, really solid CS. And I'm going to be a bit critical of Tyloo, though. I think a heroic game watching that, even though it was a pretty solid run overall, it's particularly frustrating for me because they had that game in the bag, right? And I think it was 4 pistol rounds they won. I think the last 2 maps, and they just the immediate follow up, they just get dismantled. And then it was just like so many anti-eco rounds. And you look at the scoreline, by the way, 16-12 won by Tyloo. Then they lost 10-13, 10-13 on Mirage and Train. Man, if they just didn't shit the bed in a couple of those anti-eco rounds, we would have them playing yesterday in a 2-2. And, anything could happen, right? It was, I think they would have played against, I'm not sure who would have played against, but whoever it was, they could have gone potentially deeper. And I think for Lynn Vision, that's where I was so impressed, right? It wasn't always a scrappy affair. When they're winning against Bait, who've looked pretty solid, by the way, just complete domination. They have this tendency to, when they're kind of dominating, at least in the first half, for example, just not letting go, not letting the team back into the game, which is something I even complain about the Mongols at times, right? Obviously, different caliber of opposition and all of that. So, yeah, super happy for Lynn Vision, guys. Very impressed with them. And I agree with you. Slight disappointment with Tyloo. Very slight. Tiny.
Look, I think very realistically speaking, you could have looked at Tyloo and said they could have won that heroic game, and then probably they would have gone into the 2-2 game and like gone up against like a Faze, for example, and that would have been a really, really hard game for them, and they may not have made it through. But at least you would have gone, oh, they got so close, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that. But I think overall, like, we can't be too disappointed. Again, it's Tyloo's first major, the core of this team, first major for the vast majority of those guys, pretty much ever. And, apart from G and Attacker hasn't been there for fucking, 10 years basically. So, I think as far as the first major is concerned, to make it through to stage 2, you can't be mad at all. I mean, just look at Tyloo in comparison to FlyQuest, right? Like, there's all positives as far as Tyloo is concerned, and yet, they're the team that's kind of like the fresh on the block team, if that makes sense. So I think you can't really take too many negatives away here. I think they have to walk away pretty happy. Obviously, they would have liked to have gone further, but, end of the day, can't complain. The one thing that I think we still should mention here is Amelia for Lynn Vision. Like, where the fuck did Amelia come from? This guy used to be so mid. We used to talk about Lynn Vision. I don't know about you, Surf, but I'll love to hear from you what you think, because we used to go, fuck, man, Lynn Vision, it's all Zaka and Starry, and if those two don't show up, okay, maybe Westmelon has a good game here and there because, he's a bit of a fragging IGL type guy. But if it's not Zaka and it's not Starry, this team fucking sucks. And then Amelia comes in and he's like dropped like a career best tournament. He's absolutely insane.
I've never seen him play like this,
and
ever.
Not only that, but he's also carrying the aura of Lynn Vision in the same way that G is doing it for Tyloo.
Yes.
What a goat. Where has this come from?
I have to say, Amelia is involved this time in this major, and maybe you don't understand Chinese, right? Many times,
I know what he said when he kept saying Saudi Ma.
Yeah, sometimes when teams go to the best scenario, like their in-game leader Westmelon got so frustrated, like, what the fuck did I just do? Amelia is the one like stand up, like, it's okay, we got it, we win the round, just take it easy. And he's the one who hyped the team, like the round you mentioned, the 2v4 scenario. I actually remember it's Starry and Komisu. Do you know why? Because after a round, Starry is like yelling to the opposite, like, what are you doing? It's he played professionally like for 6 years, and we never saw him get so emotional. That's what Amelia did to him. He's a boy got depressed or frustrated so easily, but this time Amelia gave me energy. He's like a different person now.
He's changed his haircut, and now all of a sudden he's like an absolute demon. I don't know. I don't understand.
It's also just the, like, firstly, the aura thing, right? Just like he's just memeing around. Dude, I was cracking up watching him just go in a circle on the when the interview was happening.
Dude, this guy's fried.
He's so into, like, G is wholesome, right? And then Amelia is just complete nutcase. I love him. I love him so much for that. Dude, but I agree with you. Like, it's just we look at the pieces, we look at Starry, we look at Zacher, and we're like, all right, that's it, right? Westmoreland, IGL, he does his job. But it felt like Amelia was always this kind of like a dead weight for the team. I felt like for the longest time. And then Komisu as well. So the fact that these two super low-rated players for this particular team, the way they stepped up, that's a difference maker for me.
Yeah. It really made me believe, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't believe at all. I didn't have Lynn Vision as a 0-3 in stage 1, but I did have them as a 0-3 in
I had them as
2.
well.
But I looked at this going in, and I thought, okay, Tyloo's going to be the best team, the best option, the best hope, and then Lynn Vision have obviously come out, and I just kept watching Lynn Vision games, and I was like, man, they're looking really good this tournament. But like, I've seen this before from Lynn Vision, where they'll like win one game or something to give you false hope, and then they'll beat their domestic rival in, for example, Tyloo, as is what happened here in stage 2 as well in that BO1, and then they'll like go on to capitulate. And I saw the pain game, and I was like, fuck, okay, it's happening finally. Like, Lynn Vision, their dream run, it's come to an end, it's over. You know what I mean? Then they started this game against Bait really well, and I was co-streaming the game, and I was watching those first few rounds, and like, sometimes you can just tell by just watching a game or like watching a pistol, and you go, okay, this team's actually on today. Like they get it today, and you got that vibe from them. Even in the map that they lost, it felt like it was super competitive. So that was a really, really cool thing to see for Lynn Vision. So look, I don't know what will happen in the future. We can talk about stage 3 in just a second, but the main takeaways here for Lynn Vision and Tyloo, just to wrap that up. Overall, really, really happy. Stoked, actually. Obviously, an extra slot for Asia. That's fantastic. There's now 6 slots for Asia at the next major. We're waiting to see whether or not they're going to be 2 stage 2 slots, or maybe a stage 3 slot, or maybe a couple of stage 3 slots. If, God forbid, Lynn Vision somehow managed to make it out of stage 3 into the playoffs, that would be an absolute miracle. But I would have said making it 2 stage 3 would have been a miracle. So, very, very happy days as far as we are concerned. And then, of course, now it's time to talk about some of the other teams. Look, where do we want to start? I guess we'll just go down the list in terms of
let's talk about Legacy. Let's talk about Legacy. Let's touch upon Legacy.
Okay, let's talk Legacy. Sure.
I think a really cool thing with Legacy is, like, obviously we are geographically challenged, and historically Brazil was also geographically challenged, right? Got to understand, these guys come in, right? They come in as a replacement for Bestia. There was a lot of shit going on over there. I don't want to touch upon the entire visa issue. Was it Bestia's fault? Was it Blast's fault? I don't know. I think Bestia kind of messed up a little bit. Then we saw so many fans of Bestia come out of the woodwork and just hurl so much of abuse to the Legacy guys, which I think was completely undeserved, right? Obviously, you get an invite to the major, you say yes. You absolutely say yes. No, not a shadow of a doubt. They come in. It was a scrappy affair during the in the opening stage, right? Like I think they lost to Lynn Vision, right, or Tyloo, whatever. Like, they're gonna go 0-3. They're probably gonna get a map win, and they come into stage 2 and just fucking dismantle MIBR, who are a better team than they are, domestically. But you can be like, domestic matchup. 3D Max, a top 7 team for me, right? Like top 7, top 6 team top 8 team on a good day, right? On an off day, right? Very solid team. Yes. They beat them, and then 2 fucking Faze, bro.
Yeah,
and I know you can be like, it's Faze with Simple and everything, but no, that was Faze who were looking fucking good, by the way. The 2 wins they had were like super clean stuff. I remember the heroic game. This is Faze fired up. This is like Simple looking sharp, everyone looking good, and Legacy beat them in a I wouldn't say like super convincing, but in a hard fought affair. I did not see that coming. So even if they go 0-3, even if they like struggle come stage 3, I think they've done a fantastic job thus far in the major.
Yep. Yeah, no arguments from me. But Surf, I have to ask, have they done enough to avoid a 0-3 on your pick'em? Because that's the big question. Like, they've been so good in stage 2. They were decent in stage 1, but I feel like most people are still going to have them 0-3.
I did.
Yeah. There you go.
I did. I put them those again.
Yeah. I mean, it's them and probably Lynn Vision as maybe the two front runners for 0-3. I actually didn't put Lynn Vision 0-3. I've learned from my mistakes. The other one, I think, in that conversation, Bleh, is probably Virtus Pro as well. Like, VP came in, at least as far as I was concerned, with very few expectations for this stage. I mean, obviously, they would, I assume, themselves want to make it through to the next stage and expect to make it through to the next stage. But just community sentiment-wise, I think this is actually another really, really surprising result. In fact, this entire stage was just absolutely cooked. Like, there was wild results all over the place.
I think the fashion in which they did it is what surprised me the most, right? Because I have been calling for, I mean, I wouldn't say calling for Electronics' head per se, but just him calling for the team. It felt like it's run its course, right? They were not getting the results. You could see the body language look so miserable on the team. Just watching him just get a tilt off the face of the planet. And it's not just his fault. Like, you can see even the teammates as well. There's like you pick up Flamus, someone is like super excitable, super outgoing, and and exciting and fun to watch. And you watch him in VP, and he just looks like depressed all the time, right? And I'm like, what's going on with this team? But then you watch at this event, and they look good. They look like a well-oiled machine. The wins they had, like Bait again, who looked pretty solid thus far. 13-3, 13-2 OG. OG looked pretty good on in stage 1 as well. And then against Pain, close affair, but they've struggled in these close games. Remember the way like so many events where they've been knocked out, where they lose in these 13-11, overtime games, and the fact they're able to close it out. Hopefully something's finally clicked here. I still am gonna wait and see how it pans out, because I've been just disappointed by VP too many times, but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'm not a VP.
Yeah, I think VP. Yeah, VP is totally different this time. Before, when you're watching VP playing, you feel like Electronics calling is like he doesn't know what to do for certain times. But this time, he plays sharp. He didn't hesitate. When he needs to call, he calls, and he wins the game. So I actually expect VP to go farther than stage 3.
Okay, make the playoffs.
Okay,
that's a bold call. That's actually a bold call, I think. All right, so since you're here with the bold calls, where do you want to go next? Who do you want to talk about next? Because we've got a bunch of interesting teams, I think. Would you like to go Falcons, Faze, Nuiga, Furia? Where do you want to go?
I think Falcons is always a topic we need to talk about.
All right, you lead us then. What do you think about what do you think about Falcons here in stage 2?
They didn't get ready. They are not ready for the major. I don't even know what are they playing. To be honest, I think they just come here, wait to play the games, and wait to change another player after the major. That's it.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm astonished, honestly, that they couldn't get through this stage. Even if that is the case, that they wouldn't be able to do it like just on a pure individual basis.
I don't agree with that sentiment, because this is fucking Nico we're talking about, right? The most, the greatest player to have never won a major. I don't think he would come in, and knowing the voice he has in the team, I don't think he's coming to this major being like, all right, guys, we're going to remove whoever, Magisk or Tessa after the player break. I'm going to get Kyosuke, so this major doesn't count. No way. They're coming in to win it, right? Obviously. But there's so many factors here, right? You can call them a dead team. Oh, it's not a full team because they have a change. Cloud9 won it in Boston as a dead team.
True.
Right? Like that happened as well, right? And for me, it's the fashion in which they lost. Firstly, you lose to Bait, right? Not exactly a great team. A solid team overall, but you lose so convincingly on day 1, best of 1. Ancient, like, all right, fine. And then they get destroyed by Lynn Vision. Now, man, I love my Chinese homies, all right? But this is Monacy and Nico and Magis and all these guys. And they get destroyed. That T side looked horrific at times. Both sides look pretty horrific at times. I don't know what the fuck they were doing in Nuke. The Nuke was terrible. They go up against OG, where they lose. They choke map 1, Dust 2. I think it was 9-3. They choked that map against fucking OG, by the way. And then who have 3 major debutants. 3 players from OG playing a major for the very first time. And they almost lose in an 0-2 fashion. Go up against MIBR, fine. First map, clean win. Nuke again. Destroyed. So many mistakes. I'm wondering, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then you head into Inferno, which everyone's spoken about, 3v5s. Everyone forgets they lost another 3v5 a few rounds later in overtime itself. They were the CT side. 5 versus 3. Save pushes the smoke, gets a couple. The decision making was insanely all over the place. The individuals failed. Nico was nowhere to be found in Inferno, right? Battling for tournament life. I'm sorry, Nico, but like that's where you, as the greatest rifler we've ever had, you should be stepping up to the plate. He didn't do that. Monacy struggled as well, right? And ironically, the T sides were freaking solid on Inferno. It was a really good T side being called by Kickson. The CT side was completely failed. And you know, if all the rumors are true, and a lot of people talk about this openly, Nico has a great voice on his CT side. He's a guy who is kind of like the caller for all the teams he's been on. So looking at all the facts that we have, you have to kind of lay a little bit of blame towards Nico. Also, the support staff, right? Like, well, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're mentally, you're not ready? You have one of the most expensive teams, the biggest budget in World Counter-Strike. Like, what the fuck is this result? It's absolutely unacceptable.
Not to mention the fact that, you know, there's this conversation around making Monacy wake up early when he doesn't want to, or when he wants to play pugs late at night, this or that. I don't know whether that's true. Obviously, is that true? Probably, if it is, it's not the time. You know what I mean? It's the major. Like, why are we fucking with something just before the major? That's my take on that situation. Whether it's true or not, I guess, doesn't really matter. Like, the end result is what we've got here. And I think the most egregious thing actually for Falcons is they only lost to one team that actually made it out of this stage. Everybody else that they lost to did not even make it out of this stage. In fact, the team that they did lose to was Lynn fucking Vision that made it out. Like, come on, guys. It doesn't, you've lost to MIBR Bait and Lynn Vision, and you've beaten OG. OG being the team that ended up going last place in this group. Everybody else that you lost to didn't make it. I mean, didn't make it out of the group. Like, crazy.
And if you look at the teams in this group, there are some pretty solid names. Like Heroic, they've been looking pretty solid thus far. You could have gone up against. Everyone's like, oh shit, what if they go up against Faze? Well, didn't happen out there, did it? Right? They could have gone up against a Furia, who've looked pretty solid recently. No, you went up against teams way below your level, and you still struggled. You still shit the bed. I'm sorry, just like.
I mean, the question is, I guess, is Nico a generational choker? Because like it just seems like. I saw this. Get it going at the major.
I saw this tweet from Maui. You know, biggest major choker of all time. I know he's pushing the narrative, and I'm like, it's not even a hot take.
But is it?
Like,
yeah, is it? Like he's not pushing it. It's true, right?
Name another player, like who's been around for a while, right? Like a famous big name who has failed at a major this many times. You can't think of anyone. There's no one else.
Yeah, actually, I agree. Early this year, I have a conversation with a coach from our top team. Like, what's wrong with Nico? Because in G2, we saw they changed 3 or 4 times for the in-game leader.
Yep.
They changed the lurker. They changed the upper. But why it doesn't work? So you have to say maybe Nico has some problem. And every time he played a big game, you can remember like before the Cloud9 Major final, even the Stockholm, they always choke. Nico always have some maybe wrongs. You can remember what he did wrong. So is really his problem? I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's both, right? Kind of in a way. Like I feel like sometimes, like for example, Boston. I guess it's the team as a whole, right? Obviously, but then you look at moments like the Inferno game we just had here, like just a couple of days ago. That was I wouldn't put it solely on him, but he played a massive part as well. So I think it's both. I feel like he's cursed and he chokes, which is the horrible combination. Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling cycle, once you get in your own head, I'm sure that starts to affect his play, and then obviously his play affects the fact that the results are not going well, and that continues to affect his play, and so on and so forth. And it's obviously not an ideal position to be in. You kind of just need that one moment that kind of like breaks that cycle, and then all of a sudden you're kind of like off to the races in a sense. But end of the day, certainly very disappointing, obviously, for Falcons, a team that we, Bleh, had in our power ranking as one of the 2 teams that could be potential winners for this tournament.
Fuck everyone's pick'ems, I'll tell you that.
Fuck everybody's pick'ems.
I do want to point one more thing out as well. Like, we do also have to highlight how when we talk about the Americas, it has been the South Americans hard fucking carrying the region right now. Legacy 3-0. right? We have Pain coming out on top. We have Fury as well, just dropping one map, by the way. MIBR, sure, they lost, but you look at they had to play against. They had to play against Falcons and Faze, right? Back to back, and eventually knocking out Falcons. Crazy game, right? They've done a great job. You know how many Americans are left? Not North Americans. Americans are left in the major right now. One. And it's on Faze.
Yeah, United States of Americans, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. Elfishguy is the only American player left in the major.
Only just, by the way. Like, that game against MIBR, it is a 2-0, but it was pretty close. Almost. MIBR were bringing it back there on the second map.
Yeah, on the second map, for sure. Like, if he had lost, that we just have the Canadians left, you know?
Yeah.
in Liquid, that's it.
I guess since we're on the topic...
Liquid only in half of the North American right now, so...
Yeah.
That's true. More Canadians.
They're both Canadian, right?
Nafa and Twist are both Canadian, and Malbs is Guatemalan.
Yeah.
Right? Which is also North America, I guess, kind of, yeah. So, fucking sucks for the US of A right now.
I mean, since we're on the topic, I guess let's talk Faze. What did you guys think of Faze? Because, again, there's been a lot of conversation around Faze coming in. Simple's here. It's so exciting. A revitalized Faze. And I have to say, I saw flashes of that. I definitely saw... Phase where I was like, oh, I'm actually excited to watch this team. I remember watching that opening game against Heroic. I think it was actually the first game of the stage. Faze versus Heroic, and I was like, holy shit, Faze has arrived. You know, Simple's here. Even watching this game against MIBR, you know, there's definitely instances where Simple was getting exposed in certain moments where things kind of like break down. You're kind of like in the mid round. He's having to make like individual decisions about positioning and stuff like that. That feels like where he's like maybe not quite 100% got the read on the game at the moment. But I think if you put him in a position with like an AWP, I remember that again in this round, like he's holding B on Ancient. He's like standing on long and he's got the AWP and he's watching ramp and it's like, as soon as the guy's there's like your fastest fucking flicks you've ever seen, bro. Like he's still got it, right? You can definitely see that. He's very quick. You put him somewhere with an AWP, you say, you be a turret, you just shoot the shit out of whoever comes here. He's going to hit his shots, man. So I think definitely you give him a bit of time. He's going to be a really, really scary player still. He probably still is a very, very scary player in the right circumstances. And look, the rest of Faze, they're kind of there still. So yeah, they've just sort of limped over the line, I guess, to make it into the next stage. But I actually have them going through the playoffs still. Like, fuck it. Why not?
Yeah. Man, I miss the Simple flick. You know what I mean? When he does that little vibration in his cross, like little shake. I really like opening day. You're right. Like you said, they look super confident, taking out Heroic, like super convincingly. Karrigan was looking like he was having a hell of a time, just trash talking with Heroic. And then they beat Tyloo. Sadly for us, but very convincingly looking very good. I think for me, the more worrying thing was the loss of 3D Max, where they look completely flat. It's like they look deflated. And that's the thing with Faze, right? As Yanko famously said, you know, when he was coaching Faze, it was all about getting Faze out from the group stage into the playoffs. And once they're in the playoffs, he's hands off. He's like, you guys know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And they're just locked in. And I feel like it's getting to that level for them. And I feel the 3D Max game, I think Simple mentioned in an interview how he's like, I don't know if it's an HLTV or on the broadcast where he mentioned how just the vibes were off, right? People weren't talking, people looked very deflated, individuals weren't quite delivering and all of that, which can happen, especially sometimes, you know, you get into this mentality, you come in, even though you have Simple to stand in, it's still a stand-in, you know, you're not really a full-fledged team coming to the major, and then you lose a map in that fashion, it gets into your head. You're like, are we actually going to make it, guys? You know, you lose a sense of belief. I'm glad to see they got it back on the final day. They're able to pull it off. So good job overall. I will say this though, man, Frozen playing like a fucking star, bro.
Yeah.
Like he is so sick right now. It's insane. And I think I've been a bit disappointed with Elfishguy, considering he came in and he is supposed to be, you know, like the NA GOAT, supposed to be up there with Frozen numbers wise. I don't think he's necessarily putting in the sort of numbers we're expecting from him. Number one, number two, because he's taken so many spots. Like the team has given him so many spots. Like Rain's given up outside yard for Elfishguy and is playing a whole different, you know, new part of the map at the ripe old age of 30. So Elfishguy, you know, if he steps up a little bit more, I think Faze could really, if not win it, let's make a deep run. You know.
Yeah, Simple is play actually better than I expect. I think before I was saying Simple is a normal opera right now, but he has his picks. He has some highlights. The problem is Simple is inconsistently. he can have a great match and a choke in the next. And the problem for Faze is every player have their highlights in the major, but they cannot perform 5 players at the same time. That's a problem for them. You cannot win the game only 2 or 3 players set up.
Yeah, but you just need, maybe the planets to align again, and all of a sudden, you let's say you get a decent draw in stage 3. Probably it's going to be a tough ask because Faze have, I imagine, got a lower seeding, so that will
Faze are playing they're playing Aurora first.
Yeah, and I think that's less of a concern, but I mean more so like as they get deeper, the seeding still comes into play, and they may end up playing like, a Vitality at some point, for example, in like a 2-0 match if they get to a 2-0, for example. But like at the end of the day, if you end up getting through that point and you get to a game where you're like in a deciding match against, I don't know, like a Furia or a 3D Max, like you see them play again against 3D Max at next stage. I don't necessarily going to go 2-0 straight away. And like you say, if you get them into playoffs, again, all it takes is a really good day for 4 or 5 of those individuals. Maybe you draw someone like Mongols in the playoffs who are playoffs chokers. All of a sudden, again, Faze is in a position where they're in semifinals or they're in grand finals. We didn't expect it in Shanghai. We don't expect it here, but expect the unexpected because stage 2 was absolutely wild. Why couldn't it happen?
Absolutely. That's the point I was about to make as well right now. Like the fact that you had all these bigger names coming into stage 2, you expect them to completely dominate stage 1, guys. Didn't necessarily happen, did it? And look, I don't expect a team like Vitality to struggle. Sure. I don't expect like a team like Spirit to struggle, or even Mouse for that matter. But you never know, man. Like even Mongols, right? Even
everyone else is fair game.
Anyone else coming in, I'm actually a little bit worried about the Mongols because I remember when they had a bit of a break. I think it was right before Bucharest when it came in, and they got knocked out in the group stage in Bucharest the first time this year, if I'm not mistaken, right? And they said it as well. They're like, well, we had a bit of a break. It took us a while to wake up, right? And these are best of ones, by the way.
You haven't got time to wake up.
Things get fucking slippery real fast, and that's what I'm a little worried about. And I think that's going to be the same case for a lot of the teams here, apart from the top 3 for me: Spirit, Vitality, and Mouse. So anything could happen, honestly. I'll just put it out there.
That's a lot of talk about stage 2. Is there anyone else you guys want to talk about here? We haven't really talked about Pain, Furia, MIBR, Heroic, M80.
I think we broadly touch upon, just the Brazilians doing a great job, man. I think this has been one of the best, I think overall, one of the best results from Brazil we've seen in a while in a major. Right?
Definitely.
And I think
4 teams in stage 3. Do you think any of them can make to the playoffs?
They're 4 or 3. Am I losing my mind?
Legacy, Pain, Furia.
Yes.
Yeah. But dude, like, top 16, you have 3 teams from Brazil. I think that's massive. That's already huge.
Yeah.
And MIBR could have snuck in as well, but if not for Faze yesterday. So I think overall the Brazilians have done really, just like broadly touching up on everything, Brazilians did a great job. I think 3D Max, again, they're just consistent, right? They're not gonna ever make very deep runs in S3 events, but I think I don't think they're happy to be where they are, but I'm happy to see where they are. I don't think they're going to go anything above that. I think they again deliver overall. Bit of a disappointment for Heroic, if you ask me. I expected Heroic to make it to stage 3. I think they looked really solid. I was afraid they were onliners at the beginning of the year when this team came together, but as we started seeing them play more lands, I'm like, yeah, these guys are the real deal, right? Like actually looking super solid. They look phenomenal in the opening stage. Unfortunately, kind of.
It was the game today against Namiga where it really felt like a bit of a letdown because they just didn't seem like they were there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it was like you played they had a pretty decent game. I felt like Heroic brought a pretty decent level against Tyloo, and then I made the tweet. I was like, Tyloo died for this Heroic, and then it was like, what was the fucking point? Couldn't we at least have Tyloo through to this next game against Namiga? It would have been more interesting at that point.
It'd be more fun.
Actually, I didn't think Namiga win Heroic. It's more like Heroic let the win. They gave the win to Namiga to let them pass.
Yep. All of those rounds where you saw like Youngstar on Mirage like pop off against Tyloo, the 5-7 round and the jungle round and stuff like that. And then you look at him playing against Namiga, it was like, bro, this is like a completely different player. So that was a bit disappointing. M80, I think, look, for me, largely in line with expectations. I don't know that I had necessarily massive expectations for this team at all. I didn't have them going through in my pick'em, so go me. I got that right at least, which is probably one of the few things I did get right.
NA has been fucking miserable at this event, and it's kind of, I mean, I have no horse in this race, but it's kind of embarrassing, right? Like, it's like you have no one apart from Elige, is playing on Faze. Apart from that, you have no team who could make it to the next stage. I mean, look at your Brazilian guys. Look at how they're playing, and it just feels kind of unfortunate and sad that they've kind of regressed. Because if you look at Shanghai last year, we were looking at M80, we were looking at Wildcard. We're like, this is good. We're seeing all these new kids come out. All of a sudden, it's no longer them recycling the same old players. They're seeing some new names, and hopefully that's going to lead to better things for the North American continent. And no, hasn't been.
I mean, in a way, though, is it any surprise, really? Because, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like people are now having this conversation about Asia being like the second best team, the second best region in the world, and this and that. And like, okay, that probably is, like, by the numbers of it, like, actually true. But is it much of a surprise? Because when we look at Asia now, there's actually quite a bit of development going on domestically speaking. There's a lot of tournament operators that are investing. Obviously we talk about Asia Champions League. That's actually massive for our region. Nomadic Masters, for example, is coming through, and that's giving opportunities over as well. Teams like Tyloo and Lynn Vision are now starting to get like far enough up in the VRS rankings that they're actually getting invites to a lot of tournaments. Although Lynn Vision did miss out on Cologne by like 0.3 of a point to FlyQuest. LOL. No. That's so funny. Not in hindsight, it's actually kind of sad because obviously Lynn Vision are way better than FlyQuest, but is what it is. But the thing is, like, there's a lot going on actually in Asia. And you look at North America, and now I don't have my, ear to the ground when it comes to North America. So I will say I could be completely off base with this one, but it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to play in North America.
Yeah, but here's my counter to that, right? What did Mongols have when they went on the rise, right? What did even the Lynn Vision guys when they remember when like a lot of people saw them for the first time playing Blast, one of those online things, right?
Starry 1v5,
1v5 and G2, right? Everyone's what the fuck are these guys? They didn't have much to play either, but they grinded out, they worked together, they made the changes they needed to, and sure, now they have more opportunities, but I don't think it's because of the opportunities that came in the last 1 year that we've seen this rise of Tyloo, rise of Lynn Vision, rise of Mongols. I think it's more about what they've done with the limited opportunities.
It's been a long-term project. Obviously, I mean, look at 2024 for Tyloo was like probably their worst year ever, except for maybe that international roster that they had, which was also horrible. So it's been.
I don't know why they put that three.
We don't either. We've been trying to figure that out this whole time. But my point is, like, okay, maybe we're in that like life cycle for North America where Asia was like 2 or 3 years ago, where like you're starting to see some of these new names like come through. And again, like I said, without being someone that's super invested in North America, maybe these guys have been around forever. But at least on my radar, players like Nick-X and Sixy and George and like some of these names on Wildcard and this and that and NRG, like. You're kind of starting to see them pop up here and there and do some decent stuff. And like, let's say in 2 years' time, if you rejig some of these rosters in the same way that Lynn Vision and Tyloo have done, could they not potentially still get to that point? But there's just it's a tough road ahead.
Look, firstly, I'm not gonna give too much shit to Complexity because they didn't have their best / second best player, right? Like they didn't have Halzog, and Halzog is absolutely such an important piece. It's not just an opera. Like he is the main clutch guy. He is the highest fragger majority of times with Grim. So I'm gonna give them a pass. It's fine. It's a bit of an unfortunate time for them. But I look at the other couple of teams, and I'm looking at. That's the thing. I look at Wildcard. I look at M80. I look at people like Jaber, right? And then I look at people like George, for example, Susp, for example, like, and these are players, not Susp, sorry. Wait, hold up. What's the player's name? Lake, right? These are guys who I didn't know once upon a time. Like these are very newish names in NA, and I felt like, and that's what I was looking forward to, right? I'm like, this is good. They're getting some EU players. They're mixing up some of this fresh talent coming out. They made some reasonably decent deep run in the Shanghai Major, but then for some reason it just feels like. Unfortunately, it was a flash in the pan. Like it's been miserable this year throughout. You hoped that they would perform in the major. Nope, complete fucking damn squib right there. And I feel it's a little unfortunate because we're seeing the Brazilians looking good. We're seeing Asia finally rising up. We're seeing EU, well, just being EU. And it kind of sucks that NA disappeared, right? Because all jokes aside, NA has always been an integral part of Counter-Strike for the past 25 years. It's an important region. And for the region to flourish, we cannot allow it to die. With the region to flourish, you need success stories.
Yep.
We don't have that right now.
Hey.
Okay.
Who knows?
I think it's take times. Like you're asking where Lynn Vision or Tyloo's player come. Actually, they play professionally for over 6 years.
Yep.
All the players you can see, they actually play a long time. Like Starry, like Zucker, like Westmelon, they play before 2020. And the G, he started playing professionally 2020. And do you know Mose and Mercury? Maybe you haven't seen him for a long time. They only just get into your head like past 2 or 3
because
years.
of Advent, yes, I know.
But yeah, Advent actually hide them for a long time because he think they are not ready yet. But actually, Advent let them play in like so-called Tyloo Academy for like 3 years before. That's why they actually play a really long time professionally Counter-Strike.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I think we just kind of have to hopefully give it a time to North America. The thing is, like, it used to be fun to bash North America because I felt like Asia versus North America was like, oh, you're like, Europe's obviously up the top, and then there's like this, depending on where Brazil is, either Brazil's number 2 or and then in which case Asia and North America are kind of fighting for who's last place in terms of an overall regional like standing. Well, now it's kind of like North America's just in the bin, and it's kind of like punching at like, a child or something like that. So I feel pretty bad, I feel like North America has a lot of the same problems that Asia does or has. So I kind of want to give them a bit of slack. So bad luck, North America buddies. It's our turn now.
It's also because, like, when we talk about, like, once upon a time, it could be like, oh yeah, NA have Liquid, who are on par or equal to
like the Mongols,
sort of,
right?
Yeah. Even though it's like they have like 3 NA players, that's about it, like 3 almost. But now with the ascent of Tyloo and and Lynn Vision, and also you can't ever count out Rare Atom. They can pull off an upset here and there. You can't count out some of the Mongolian teams. Like, sure, Chicken Warriors, bro. Like, they didn't go 0-3, and they're one of the weakest Mongolian teams we had coming in, right? I would rather have had the Huns, for example, or
Eruption,
Atox, or rest in peace, or Eruption, for that matter, who, in my opinion, are all 3 better teams. And yet, Chicken Warriors did not go 0-3. They still, like, they were shooting and hitting hard. So now you look at it's the 2nd to 5th, 6th best teams in the region. You compare those, and Asia's easily better than both NA and SA, if you ask me.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. Look, let's move on. Let's talk about Stage 3. We've got, obviously, the opening matchups. And, again, I guess, like, the thing is, it looks pretty straightforward. And that's what I kind of would have said about Stage 2. I feel like Stage 2, you looked at it on paper, you go, okay, I know which teams are going to go through. Here, we're going to be saying the same thing. We're going to say, well, Vitality, Mouse Spirit, Mongols probably should be making it through pretty comfortably. And then, maybe Aurora, depending on how they're looking. G2, Na'Vi, Liquid, maybe a little bit more of a question mark. But Faze as well. Like, there's a few sort of names that you can throw in there. But what do you guys expect? Are you expecting this to kind of play out as expected, or are we going to see a little bit more craziness? And also, I guess the big question here is, will Vitality maintain their streak?
Yes.
You think Vitality will maintain a streak?
I think Vitality would win the major this time. Maybe they can lose 1 or 2 matches, but I believe they can win the major. But my lowest expectation, Lynn Vision don't go 0-3.
Yep. I think there's definitely a win in here somewhere for Lynn Vision. I'm looking at some of the names in there. Like, if they get matched up against a Legacy or a 3D Max or a Fury or an Amiga. I mean, God forbid, even a Pain again. Like, I know they kind of got rolled by Pain, but I think Lynn Vision was definitely off in that matchup. Navi's been susceptible. G2, who knows? Aurora's been susceptible. Team Liquid, who knows? Faze potentially has an off day. Like, there's definitely, even in BO3s. Look, the thing is, though, it's just got to be Lynn Vision maintain that form. If they can maintain the form that we saw from them in Stage 2, I think they can take wins here in Stage 3. I'm not predicting them to make playoffs. Don't get me wrong. I think they could get themselves 1 or 2, even if it's in a BO3, but I don't expect them to go super far. But there's every possibility as well that Lynn Vision just completely drop off the face of the planet as well. Like, Amelia, is he going to keep up? Like, he's literally playing probably 2 to 3 times as well as he normally does. If he goes back to the mean, if everyone goes back to the mean, goes back to the average, they don't win a game.
I think they're going to win 1. Might not be the best of 1s. Might be in the best of 3, but I agree with you. I think there are enough teams when if let's say they go down to 0-2, right? Like, who can they potentially face? They might face an Amiga, right? They might face Legacy, perhaps, right? And maybe I don't know, like a Pain Gaming or something. But I think they have a real chance to beat these teams. So yeah. And also, at this point, like I cannot put them 0-3. I think it's not fair.
I'm the same. I have not put them 0-3. I've learned from my mistakes. I used to be that guy that used to shout from the rooftops, "You don't put Asian teams 0-3" after Rare Adam at Shanghai. And then I put Chinggis 0-3 and they fucked me. And then I put Lynn Vision 0-3 and they fucked me. So now I'm not going to do it. And they're probably going to go 0-3 this stage. So whatever. Fuck it. I don't care. The coin is fucked anyway. Okay, look, we need our clickbait. So what about Mongols? Okay. What's Mongols going to do here? Are they going to go 3-0? I mean, are they going to make it to the playoffs? I think we're going to do another episode before the playoffs anyway, so we probably don't need to go too deep in onto what we're coming to expect from the playoffs. But are we at all concerned about Mongols, or are they kind of just a lock-in for the playoffs? I feel like they're probably still a lock for playoffs here.
I'm a little worried that day one could go a little rough for them. The ring rust coming in, right? It's always worrying. And also, who's their opening matchup against?
Furia.
Bro, Furia look pretty solid right now, okay? Furia look reasonably solid. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. I think they can really make it to the playoffs, if you ask me. Sure, it's been a smaller sample size. You know, they only played in Astana and everything. But seeing Yakindar look the way he is at the moment, and that Molodoi kid, you know, he already has arena experience as well, right? Playing in Kazakhstan, and obviously, you know, Kesarado and Fallen somehow being one of the best rifles I've seen at that age, which is insane. That team could be dangerous. They're warmed up. They've been playing, you know, they've been playing like the second stage. The Mongols are coming in very, very cold. This might be the longest stretch where the Mongols haven't played any CS.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually think Mongols can make to the playoffs. Maybe not 3-0, but like Jordan said, the playoffs is always a thing. Mongols is like 3D max. 3D max always rank like 9-12, but I think Mongols is 4-8 level. So actually, I hope Mongols can make one step further to top 4 this time. And like Blur said, they haven't played games for a long time. I think it's a really good time for them to prepare or get some rest.
I agree. You know what? Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna say it right now. They're gonna make it to the semis. They're gonna make it to the semis.
Yeah, no, I honestly don't think that that's a super unreasonable take at all, to be quite honest with you. I think a lot of it is largely going to depend on who they end up drawing in the quarters, but I think there's a very real possibility that it could make
which we literally cannot say right now. But I feel like every 6 months they have this tendency to like crack
the next level
to the next level. It's due. It's due. Like last time did it was in Shanghai, making the playoffs of the major. Insane stuff for Asian Counter-Strike, from Mongolian CS and everything. I feel like this major they're going to make it to semis. I mean, there's no logic behind this. I'm just trying to fucking manifest it. All right, that's it.
Okay, I just hope they can keep one stage 3 seats for Asia next major.
Yeah. I think it's a real possibility for sure. Anyway, look. We'll move on because it's really hard at this point to predict anything, to be honest, when it comes to the major. It's just been absolutely wild, but we'll be back again after stage 3 to discuss those results when that's all done. Let's just touch on a couple of quickfire topics here to round out the episode. There's a couple of Asia-related news pieces that have come out over the last week or two. We didn't get to them in the last episode. We didn't quite have time. This one I found a little bit interesting. And this will have some implications going into the next major. Apparently, at least the talk on the town is that there's not going to be an OCE MRQ for the Starladder Major, so that's obviously the next major upcoming. This is the website, Starladder's website, which basically announces the MRQ dates and the format. Now, they don't actually specifically state that there's no Oceania MRQ, but in Asia, the regions are listed as West Asia, East Asia, and China. Now, last time it was Oceania, Mongolia, and West Asia, and China, so there is obviously a terminology difference there. There's no further information here from Starladder as to what these sub-regions actually mean. Now, China's obviously pretty fucking self-explanatory, but West Asia, where's West Asia? I don't know. Where's East Asia? I don't know. That's probably Mongolia, but then beyond Mongolia, where is East Asia? I mean...
I guess it would be like, you know, Eastern Russia. Then you have like
Korea, Japan, but they don't play.
Korea, Japan, Hong Kong. That's usually what it used to be.
Maybe
then that should say Southeast Asia. Where is Southeast Asia?
And what about South Asia as well, right?
Well, that was in West Asia last time.
I think West Asia, South Asia, India, and Pakistan, everything's combined there. But so Southeast Asia is missing.
Well, that's it. It's like West Asia to me would be India, Pakistan, Middle East, kind of like North Africa, I guess, in a stretch. that would be the one that kind of
Yes.
makes sense. And that was obviously lumped in with Mongolia last time, which kind of didn't make sense, but it kind of worked because no other teams really got an invite because Mongolia was dominating anyway. East Asia now, to me, would have to be Mongolia plus Southeast Asia plus Oceania. Like, that seems like the only thing that would make sense.
How the fuck would that?
You
Seems
can't
like
do
that
that.
makes sense. You can't do that. Dude, Mongolia,
I mean, it's
Southeast Asia itself is kind of tricky. Then you throw in Australia, and it's like it's fucked.
yes. I mean, it doesn't make sense because online, right? How can you play Mongolian team and the Australian team as the same server?
I don't know what they plan to do, but anyway, I just thought we should talk about it. I think it's pretty stupid. Whoever's made this decision, please reconsider, I guess. Like, it's not too late to change this, surely. Like, it's still pretty we haven't even started the season, you know. So the way this should go, if there's 4 invite slots for Asia in stage 1, which there always will be, that much is guaranteed. Why are we not just having a 4-way split between East Asia, which can be Mongolia plus whoever the fuck else, China, 1 slot for those 2, 1 slot for Middle East, and 1 slot for Oceania, right? Or Middle East, West Asia, whatever. We'll call it MENA, Middle East, North Africa, plus, like, if India has to play in there, I don't know, or India can play in East Asia, something like that. Someone's going to get fucked somewhere, but, like, at the very least, we should be trying to, like, min-max it as much as possible. And I think, first of all, having Middle East, North Africa playing against, you know, potentially Mongolia in the last MRQ, that ain't it. Now you have potentially Oceania playing against, like, we might run into a situation where, like, right now, if they do the invites based on VRS, you're probably going to have, like, 2 Mongolian teams and 2 Oceania teams, for example, in East Asia. It might be like FlyQuest, Semperfi, Chinggis, and Huns, without having actually looked at the VRS rankings. You know what I mean? And, like, how are you possibly going to do that? Are you expecting the OCE teams to fly to Asia? At which point, now you're starting to make it like a pay-to-win system, basically, because only teams with orgs are really going to realistically be able to do that. I just don't know. I don't know. And I don't understand why this is still a thing. We had the same conversation around this last year during the Shanghai Major. We had it for this qualifier as well. We have it going forward again. You know, everyone seems to be talking about it, but the TOs just don't do anything about it. I'm not sure. I really don't understand. Anyway, I don't have a solution, obviously, but just wanted to raise awareness for it. So that's all I need to say on it. And then we can move on. Don't worry,
I mean,
guys.
there's nothing else to add to that. Like, it's just sad.
All right. Well, hey, we'll move on to another similar kind of a conversation because this is the Bucharest 2026 qualifier announcement. And also, it's quite interesting. So, regional qualifier rules here, as you can see. For Asia, we have an Oceania sub-region, 2 invited teams, whatever. So they're all the same. So Oceania, West Asia, and East Asia. First of all, we don't actually know technically who's West Asia and East Asia. That's one conversation point in itself. But that's not where this actually gets weird. Each sub-region will qualify 1 team. So 4 teams play in each sub-region and qualify 1 team to the Asia final, which is a 3-team round-robin format between East Asia, West Asia, and Oceania, whichever representatives go through. So let's just say...
What?
Let's just say it's FlyQuest. West Asia would be like maybe like GG How, for example, and East Asia can be fucking Tyloo. Okay, Mongols are getting an invite. So those are our 3 teams, and they're going to now play a 3-team round robin format
Online,
presumably.
How?
Great question.
Where, by the way, the matches will continue until the clear winner is decided. So we run into a situation where A beats B, B beats C, and then C beats A, and then we run it back, and we just keep on going.
Bro, infinite Asian Counter-Strike. Like, infinite.
Do we calculate the round difference?
I don't know. It says until a clear winner is decided. So, and it says there might be multiple rounds if it's still a tie. So to me, that would mean you have to win against both of your other respective regions. Like Oceania would have to beat West Asia and East Asia. You couldn't have 1-1s. So that's wild to me. Again, why are we not, in this instance, just doing 4 sub-regions? Why are we not just doing OCE, East Asia, China, and then West Asia? And we have 4 teams go through. First of all, that's better. It's still not great because we're going to have an online qualifier with all of these regions, and someone's going to have to fly, and someone's going to lose out on that or play on ping. That's one conversation. But at least, in that instance, you could just say, we've got a semi-final and a grand final. You play your best of 3 against your semi-final team. If we really want to be generous, you play a double elim bracket there, and the winner goes. Instead of having this weird round-robin format. So I don't know. Again, like, I don't understand. And I was looking at the other region qualifiers, like, you know, EU, NA, and SA, they all have double elim bracket, grand final. Like, what? Wow, why are we doing this weird shit for Asia? I just don't understand. That's it.
Great question.
Yep.
Just make it.
LAN games would be nice.
Games. We have the biggest region and like more than half of the population in the world, right? Make a LAN games. If you say we need to make a LAN games, you ask TOs who willing to get, I believe, more 5 TOs.
Sure.
I mean, we've already seen Mesa run a PGL Bucharest qualifier, which, by the way, they didn't pay me for yet. So, Mesa, please pay me for that. But you know, TOs are happy to do it. I'm sure. So look, my argument would be, if you're not gonna run a qualifier properly, like, why are we not at this point just using VRS? You know what I mean? Like, if this is the way the qualifier is going to be, why are we not just inviting the top ranked VRS team at that point? Because at that point, that honestly kind of feels a little bit fairer to me. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's talk quickly ESL Challenger League update as well. I'm sure you guys have seen this one. The broad strokes of it, it's quite a long, like, it's quite a lengthy article, as you can see here. We don't need to go over it, but the broad strokes are no more BO1s. They're all going to be BO3s. The seasons have changed from like a 3-month-long, 4-month-long season to a cup-based structure where there'll be 4 cups per season into regional finals. The regional finals being the teams that won each respective cup. Now, the winner of that regional final then goes on to play at ESL Pro League, so that all makes sense. Again, there's a little bit of weirdness going on. This is where it gets a little bit strange. If you win 2 of the cups, so let's just use Oceania as an example, because it's probably the most cut and dry example. If FlyQuest plays in all of these cups and they win 2 of them, they go directly into the grand final. Okay, fair enough. If they win 3 of the cups, the semi-final gets cancelled. They get a 1-map advantage into the grand final. Because, remembering, you have to win a cup to qualify to the regional final. If they win all 4 of the cups, then the regional finals themselves are just completely cancelled, and they get the direct invite to ESL Pro League, which it makes sense because you've just so hard dominated your region that, you know, probably you're going to win the regional final anyway. I get that. But my problem with that is when we're in a region, particularly like Oceania, but even to a lesser extent like Asia, I'm not such a fan of just like cutting potential games. Like, I think if we're going to do this, let's have the regional final regardless. If FlyQuest goes and wins all 4 of the cups, just invite the second team or the third team. You know, just invite 4 teams that, you know, have done the best in those regional cups, because at least then you're letting these teams play. What was flagged to me by one of the Australian players was that you may not even get enough VRS like games from this system as an Oceania team to get on the VRS ladder. You need 10 games, I think, in maybe it's like 6 months or something like that. You may not even get to play that many games in this format. And because there's nothing else going on, for example, in Australia, apart from the odd defrag event, you literally could not get on the VRS ladder.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible. So unless you're going to say, we're going to win this against the likes of a FlyQuest, for example, like, I don't know, what's a name? Pull a name out of your hat. We're Mind Freak, for example. Unless we're literally going to win ESL Challenger League, all 4 cups, and go directly to ESL Pro League, play those games, and get VRS points that way, we cannot get VRS points in Australia. Like, it's impossible. And that affects you, obviously, getting qualification to something like an ACL, all these other qualifiers. So it's just a bit of a quick situation. I understand ESL's obviously making these changes. Some of them are very positive. BO3 is definitely a big positive. I think generally moving to the cup format is actually a good change. I don't think teams really want to be playing over like 4 months and not getting the VRS points until the end of that season. I think all of that is good. The only thing I have the issue with is just having this cup system where you potentially kill the regional final. I think at least run the regional final, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think they just trying to avoid, like, if we like have 4 teams in grand final, a team win the first cup and they just withdraw from the other 3. So they want the top teams to play all 4 cups. But like you say, in Oceania, you have a special case. Like, FlyQuest is actually dominating your region, right? So maybe we can do some specific changes to specific regions.
I mean, I don't even know if FlyQuest will play in it. Potentially, it kind of depends on where their VRS is at. They didn't play last season.
I mean, it's hypothetical, but like Yeah, look, this is something which we were kind of worried broadly about Asia as a whole when VRS came out, as a concept and everything, right? And thankfully, because of Mesa and ACL and all these TOs in Asia, that got sorted out. But I feel like, yeah, just the fears we had were kind of unfounded, I guess, end of the day for Asia. But it is basically what we were worried about when VRS came out for OCE, and it's just there, and it's not something that's been addressed because there's only just like what 2-3 teams, man. Like it sucks, but
yeah.
Anyway,
that's pretty much it. That's all. Just had to have a couple of quick rants. Is what it is. Anything else you guys want to say before we go?
Yeah, nothing. I think it's been a great week for Asian Counter-Strike overall.
Yeah,
maybe not for OCE because FlyQuest did quite better. I did see Dexter tweeting quite a bit as well, so I could see that. And you know what? I'd do the same as well if it was me, right? So, but it's been great for Tyloo and for Lynn Vision, despite the disappointment from Tyloo. Lynn's gonna make it 1-3, and now we'll wait for the Asian lords in the form of Mongols to see what they got. So yeah, it's going to be a fun time for Asian Counter-Strike and CS in general. Great storylines coming in.
Yeah, it's been a fun major. Surf, anything on your side?
Yeah, I'm happy to see what happened in major, and after major, I believe more Asian teams can be invited directly to top tournaments because more and more of them making to top 16 on VRS ranking, right? And more teams can get rid of the Asian frame like Mongols. They don't need to compete in the Asian region, so with more teams can get more chance to show themselves.
Indeed. Yeah. Look, obviously, Surf, thank you for coming on. It's been good to get your insights, particularly on stuff going on in the Chinese region. Hopefully, some of your fans are going to come and watch. For any of the Surf fans, any of the Chinese fans, anyone that's new to the show from China, what Aini and Zhongguo newbie is all I'll have to say to you after Lynn Vision doing well. But make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz. buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you'd like to give us money. And we'll catch you on the next episode after stage 3 is done. We'll see you there. Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.